Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I wanted to go through some limited time mode ideas for Apex Legends that I think would be really cool, fun modes to try out, as we've only had one so far in Season 5. I know there's been some leaks of some coming in the future, and I wanted to explore a few more new ones that I think could be added that have never been seen in the game before, and one mode that I really want to return. So that is the mode I'm going to start with first of all. It's one we've already seen, but I really want Solos mode to come back. I was unlucky enough to not have been playing Apex Legends when Solos was in the game, so I have never played the mode. And again, it's not a mode that I think would ever need to be permanent, but it's one that I really wanted to give a try. And I definitely think it needs to come back for players who didn't get to try it the first time round. It just looks like a load of fun. It looks frantic, it looks chaotic, and you can have the return of people trying to get that badge where you win with 8 different characters in Solos, which is just like an incredibly difficult challenge. So I really would love to see Solos come back into the game, but that's my only returning one on this list. Next, we're moving into the limited time modes that I would love to see, which have never been seen before in Apex Legends. The first would be a mode where you could all play as the same character. I think it would be extremely unbalanced. It would be very frantic, a little bit crazy, but you could have teams with 3 caustics on it, teams with 3 wraiths, 3 gibbies, anything and everything. A mixed match of them all. 3 lifelines, so if you go down, you're just constantly reviving each other. It would be mayhem, but I think a mode where we could actually play each different character, or everyone on the team play one character, having that option would be so cool, especially if you're loading into that with friends and you're all maybe octane and having jump pads all over the map. That would be so much fun. They might have to watch for the server load with that, because if 3 Gibraltar ultimates are going down into the same spot, that might be a heavy load on the server. But we'll have to see. I think it would be a really fun mode, and it would only have to be in the game for maybe a week to see how it plays, but I think it would be really great. The next limited time mode I would love to see in Apex Legends is the return of Shadowfall, but very much tweaked to almost a Halo style infection mode. So Shadowfall was the Halloween event from last year. Again, I didn't get to play this, but just from how I've seen gameplay of it, it looked fun but a little bit unbalanced, and it didn't seem like too much fun to be an infected player. So I think if you're going to introduce a mode like this, let's make it fairer. So instead of people having to fight at the start to see who's going to be infected and who's going to be not, do it like Halo, where a randomized group of people are infected and a randomized group are survivors, and you do it for 3 rounds. I think it's the fairest way of doing it, so you're infected for 1 round and you're human for 2. I think it would discourage players leaving, because if you get infected, you might just think, I'm not even going to play this round, and leave, or at the very least introduce some sort of leave penalty to stop people dropping out of the game mode, because it seemed fun except for people leaving. I would also say maybe even literally trial it like Halo's one. Use the Mastiff and a P2020 with hammer points versus the zombies, and keep it to maybe a restricted part of a map. You can maybe open the map up. You could try it a few different ways. Just Halo up the mode a little bit, and I think it would be a really fun one for Apex Legends to give a try, to go back to the Shadowfall mode, because it looked so intense and you could still play with all the abilities, having Pathfinder being so strong with the grapple and the zipline. I love the feature for going for the dropship at the end. I think that should definitely stay, because that was really balancing. It stopped camping, and you could camp up to a certain point, but then it just became, you have to go for the ring. So Watson was quite strong in the early stages, but Pathfinder and Octane were brutal towards the end, and were often the ones that would survive from gameplay I've seen. Next, we're moving into some more original ideas. We've got hide and seek mode in Apex Legends with a Bloodhound style tracking and no ring. I think you leave the map completely open. Maybe do it on King's Canyon, because World's Edge is just so big. Again, you could do the Halo style infection, where you maybe do a round as a seeker and a round as hiding. So maybe it's a 2-round game, 1 round for each, and you are, as a seeker, you have Bloodhound scan, You can have whatever weapons you want and gold armor, lots of resources. And the hiding players would actually be able to kill the Seekers, but they have no armor and maybe a P20, and it's just the job of the survivor to live for a certain amount of time. You could maybe reduce the player speed for the seeking characters, but they would have Bloodhound Scan, they would have the trackers on, so they would be able to hunt down players. So maybe there would be a 1 or 2 minute buffer for players to use the dropship to drop in, and then 2 minutes later the Seekers would then drop in. And I think that would be quite a balanced mode on King's Canyon, because it almost encourage the Seekers to hunt in packs, and you would have a fair few of Seekers as well, so it was quite balanced. Maybe restricting a little bit of the area could help, but I don't think you'd need a ring if you had the Bloodhound Scan on. It would encourage less camping too. It would make it more movement oriented, because you could camp up until a point, but I think what would make it quite thrilling for the people hiding is you're always on edge, because you never know if a Bloodhound is currently following your tracks. So you could have a Shadow Fall Bloodhound group chasing you down, but maybe they always had the sound of their ultimate on. So if you're hiding, you can hear them and get out of there. Or maybe that would make it too difficult to seek. I don't know exactly how to implement it perfectly, but I think that there is something in there that would be quite a nice mode. As a hider, you would always be on the edge of your seat wondering if someone is tracking you, and as a seeker, it would be very satisfying, scanning and seeing 7 enemy players in one building, especially if the seekers had Krabers and Peacekeepers as well. I think that would be a really cool combo for it, because if they're seeing them across the map, just getting shocked by someone seeking you would be incredibly intense. Or maybe you just reserve it to close quarters weapons, so that the seeker has to get right up in the player's face if they want to get them. So maybe Peacekeeper, Mastiff. The next limited time mode is the floor is lava. I haven't seen this suggested anywhere, but I'm sure people have already probably suggested the idea of a floor is lava game mode. And I think you could go with the normal ring. And what you would do is maybe in 30-second or a minute intervals, the floor just boom, it's an instant kill barrier. You have a lava effect over it, so you either have to be up on top of a roof of a building, up a set of stairs. You have to be somewhere up, or maybe using a Pathfinder zipline or an Octane jump pad, and then it stays like that for maybe 10 or 20 seconds. And then goes back to normal, but it would be a really fast kill barrier. I don't think it would be instant, because otherwise it would be very difficult. Maybe it would work in the same way that the lava does on World's Edge, but covering a large amount of the map. That would be so cool, wouldn't it? And then as the rings are getting smaller and smaller, having to try and take that into account, it would force everyone onto high ground, and no one would be sort of hanging around on the low ground. Can you imagine end circles with 3 buildings, and you've just got 3 teams all sort of curled up on the roof spaces because they can't go down to the low ground at all? I think that would be such a fun mode. It would just add a different variety. It would make Pathfinder utterly essential towards the mode, and I think it would bring a lot of players back to playing Pathfinder, even for this brief time. And the last mode I would love to suggest for Apex Legends as a limited time mode is a constantly moving ring. Now this would be a very on the edge kind of mode. It would mean camping would be almost impossible. You'd never want to have a Watson in this mode, and so the rings would move in like it always does. Ring 1, 2, all the way up to 7. But that ring is always on the move, and for the first couple of rings, maybe it is a little bit faster because it's quite a large space, especially ring 1. And then rings 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the ring is moving around at different rates, different paces, different directions, always on the move. It would be keeping you constantly on your toes, but you'd need to make it so that people could still at least catch up to the ring, so that they're not going to be just taken down. But it would really change gunfights, because if the ring is always moving around the map, then there's no safe spot to really hold down in a building, because you never know where the next ring is going to force you. and if you're fighting in the storm, maybe that it will give you a safety because the ring is moving towards you, and or safety is, it would just lead to so many really interesting gameplay opportunities. I think having a ring that's constantly on the move, just another game mode that keeps you constantly on your toes, discourages camping, but would also lead to just some really satisfying plays, and also some really disastrous moments. Maybe you're in a really perfect spot and then the ring picks up and moves again. I think you'd have to have times where the ring is static, so it's not moving 100% of the time, but maybe 50-50, so it spends 50% of the time static throughout the course of the time each ring runs, and then the other 50% it's moving around at different speeds. So maybe the seventh ring would be the most interesting one if games got to that point, because you would have players running towards it. It would mean self-res people would hardly ever win games, but it would just provide something a little bit different. I think it'd be really fun. But from you, I would love to know what limited time mode you would love to see in the game. Maybe it's a mode I suggested here in today's video, or maybe it's a mode I have not. I would love to know what you're thinking for the future of Apex Legends. I'm very excited because we've got potential paintball mode coming, the campfire mode. If the campfire mode is true, I'm really excited to see what that mode is. It's really piqued my interest. Around this sort of time in Apex's lifespan with seasons, we're sort of at the dry spell with less content than usual, so I'm really hoping another limited time mode comes in ahead of the highly anticipated launch of Season 6. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm very excited to hear what you think about limited time modes in the comments below. Subscribe to stay tuned with all of the latest videos here on the channel. We've got the Mozambique only challenge coming in the next video, about to record that later tonight. Really excited. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video.